Hey guys, how are you tonight? Y'all will have to let me know if you can hear me. This is the first time I have used StreamYard at all. This is totally new ground for me, so I hope you can hear me. If you can't hear me, like, put a 2 in the chat. If you can't hear me, put a 1 in the chat. I'll give everybody a couple of minutes to get in here, and we'll talk about everything that has been going on today. Perfect, Rhonda. Thank you. So, how is everyone? This is the first time I've even tried using my tablet or anything. It's nice to see you, Miss Catherine. And let me tell y'all, since I have decided to go ahead and come out with what I have had, and I've been speaking on having this video for a while now. Since I went ahead and posted it, I have lost subs. I don't know what's going on there, but for some reason, for posting truth, I'm losing subs, but that's okay because the truth stands when the world's on fire, right? That's what my granny used to say anyway. I've had that video for a while. I've known about it for a while. Yes. It may be these really cheap headphones, Rhonda. I just picked up like a pair at the dollar store just to see if StreamYard would even work for me on this old raggedy tablet. And the tablet is like so outdated. This is the tablet that I record off of that gives y'all that real crackly looking, not smooth video that y'all complain about. Exactly, Catherine. If they left, they never were one of us anyway. And I want to know where that Miss Cinderella film is at. And why am I the only one asking? And here's the deal. I brought this to Kim and Allie's attention. I emailed them about this several weeks back. And I asked him about Dalton Stout. And I got back the response that they had no idea who I was talking about. And I gave him a quick rundown. And I never heard a word, not a word back about it. I've asked in other people's chats who were connected to the case. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And to me, that is a red flag when you can't get a simple answer. When the man lives right in the middle of all of this. And Dalton had a thing up a few weeks ago that, yes, they were still filming in Tennessee, in Gatlinburg, when the Amber Alert come out, and he remembered getting the Amber Alert on his phone. He since took that statement down off of Facebook. When I went back to screenshot it, it was gone. At the beginning of the case, Arnie pops out like nobody's supposed to know who he is and shows up down at that racetrack with supposed to be evidence that he's collecting with these bare hands, you know, and that was all a show. That was all for a part of a movie, a documentary. That was all just it. Who picks up evidence with your sweaty bare hands? And it wasn't even bagged properly. But he was claiming that, you know, that was Summer's toys, that was Summer's hair stuck to tape and stuff down at the racetrack. But he has been just all wrapped up in this case, creating noise and nonsense ever since. And I never could figure out why. Why is it so important to him to create so much drama? And it got so bad between him and the sheriffs that they were even threatening, at one time, I believe, bodily harm, if not death, to the sheriffs. I believe it was something along those lines. It was some sort of threats. But it seems like it has been between certain people back and forth. Oh, I have no idea what's going on with Cam and Allie. I I don't know. Boy, look, and Candace sure had the money to bail him out of jail, huh? Almost like they were just old buddies and old friends. Man, I don't care what Jody Sue has to say about me. And she can block me all she wants. I don't care. She's just mad because I finally had enough. Look, she released that about the Suburban. And I said something about, I was talking to her about the Suburban, and she said, I said Suburban, but I think I meant Trailblazer. But if I said Suburban, I guess in the back of my mind I meant Suburban, but I'm really not sure if it was the Trailblazer or the Suburban. So everybody keeps saying Suburban, but she wasn't even sure herself if it was the Trailblazer or the Suburban. And that's exactly what the woman said to me. Sorry, this cheap headphone keeps falling out of my ears. I will get a good set tomorrow since I know StreamYard works now. She sits there for hours and hours and hours, and she runs PayPal and Cash App, and you're not even allowed to mention Summer's name. And I tried my best to talk to her. I even stuck up for her. And I stuck up for her up until the point that she released that new information about the Suburban. And then she told me that about, well, I meant to say Trailblazer, but I guess if my mind went to Suburban and that's what came out of my mouth, I guess subliminally, I meant Suburban, I guess, or something to that effect. So, and then she had said something about being up for 3 days with no sleep, and that kind of told me what I needed to know there. So, I'm not used to being on this tablet, guys. I'm sorry. It's slipping and sliding, and I think she's also being paid to run interference. Every few days her story changes, but by her text messages, she was asleep. And in the very beginning of this thing, I said, it looks to me like she is going from chat to chat, gathering information. And she's reward hunting too. And I'm going to stick by that statement. So, on one hand, she's trying to gather as much information as she can from everybody, but she's also trying to throw shade for some reason. So, if I spent my time worrying about what a burn up meth head had to say about me, oh my goodness. But you see, none of them, I even hashtagged it, Predator Hunter Nation, and none of them's been over here to even contradict what I've said. Hey Oreo, how are you today? None of them have been over here. Um, the only ones that has been over here trolling is Jody Sue sent a few over here trolling, and they were blocked quick like. And that wasn't but just like two or three. And see, she sits over there and she can talk about everybody and anybody for days at a time, but she thinks her and her bunch should be immune from being talked about. They should be immune from anybody throwing anything their way. But I've got one more coming out for her here in a few days. Y'all remember her talking about her dog being poisoned? And she keeps talking about, oh, well, the dog is the key, the dogs are the key, the dogs are the key. Let me tell you what, if all those dogs were poisoned, Hawkins County and TBI would have seen a bunch of sick dogs in the woods, and that would have thrown up red flags to TBI and to Hawkins County. And they would have known something was up right then if they would have seen a bunch of sick, poisoned dogs laying dead or even sick, strewn out through those woods. So her theory about dogs being poisoned, and let me ask you this. Hey, Jody Sue, do you have vet bills and vet receipts? Can I get a receipt on that? Where you say your dog was poisoned and was in the vet for days and days and days, where it was poisoned by Jackie Dobbs. Can I get a receipt on that, please? Even when it was being questioned about the people coming down from New York just in the last couple of weeks, and it being possible about the Wells property being the property that they were going to buy or rent, she made the remark in her chat that that property had already been promised to them for a certain price so that it could go back to the original community in which it come from and not a bunch of upstate New York Yankees. If that dog eat summer, there would have been evidence of that. There has been dogs of every kind up there. There has been human remain recovery dogs. Thank you, Darlene. There has been um, cadaver dogs. There has been live scent dogs out there. Any money raised is going to go towards a new computer because all I have got is my phone and this old raggedy tablet, and they're not compatible together because one's an Apple and one is Android. So I certainly appreciate it so much. I'm in desperate need of something better. But they've had dogs of every variety up there. That's perfectly fine. I don't complain. I will take it anyway. I'm not one that is particular about how you send the money. I have heard that at one time they may have lived in Churchill. But as far as I know, they live in Kentucky. Well, Gatlinburg is very close to the Kentucky line. If you find it, definitely send it to me. I would like to see that picture. Hey, Sapphire Moon, how are you tonight? Yeah, I heard that he was breaking bond being in Tennessee. I heard about that this morning. So see, Ernie does a lot of this to himself. If he knows that he's not supposed to be in Tennessee, he really needs to get back to Kentucky and stay there. He's responsible for a lot of what happens to him because he knows that there's people watching him and he knows that there's people that's going to call and turn his butt in for whatever reason. I don't know what the reason is, but there seems to be a lot of that going on right now. And it seems to have to do with whatever this thing is, this reel of film that's missing. Does anybody know if he was really in the military or not? Because there's a lot of guys that have been overseas and they come back so messed up that it does not require drugs to act like that. It's called PTSD. But let me tell you something else that I've noticed in this case. We have had a lot of creators pop up that belong to the Patriot movement, which are usually the QAnon or QAnon. I don't know exactly the correct pronunciation. Um, but look around, there's a lot of the Second Amendment people around this case for some reason. Some of Grandma Candy's aliases, also known as, when you look them up, they come back to QAnon groups. Jody Sue talks a lot about going to Washington, D.C. a lot. There was a lot of, what did they call them? Uh, Protests. It wasn't just Capitol protests. There was mother of all um, patriot protest things. It was against, um, it wasn't the Black Panthers. What is that other group? Y'all know what I'm talking about. um, what content of hers have I stolen? I don't have Facebook. A subscriber of mine dropped me those screenshots. I simply shared them. But anyway, it's like the Patriots against the black. I can't think of that group of. It's not the Black Panthers. It's something else. But anyway, Antifa riots. That's what they were. They were anti-Antifa and Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. That's what they were. Um, but anyway, she talks about being in Washington D.C. a lot. Candace at one time talked about watching her house and stuff while her and Andy was in Washington D.C. Yep. But there's a lot of these folks that seem to be connected to this case for some reason. There's one of Grandma Candy's aliases. that even has a QAnon website that generates money. I'll be getting that out there soon too. It seems like scamming money is a big, big thing for these people, and it always has been. It's Black Lives Matter, is what it is, and Antifa riots, and it was the mother of all riots and stuff like that that was going on at the National Mall, and that's what was going on before the Capitol riots in Washington D.C. And they live pretty close to Washington D.C. It's not that far. But Candace even talked about watching their house while they were in Washington, D.C. And that phone call where Don and Candace played that trick on Mary, the big hoax call. If you remember, she even yelled, "Storm the Capitol." I still think that was some sort of code to somebody else when she yelled, "Storm the Capitol." And Ernie was at the Capitol. But just go through the list of some of the creators and just see how many of the Patriot Second Amendment types have popped up just since the Summer Wells case has come about. And then think back to some of the crazy looking people that they arrested at the Capitol riots, like the Shaman Man and some of the. I believe he's a junior, but I'm not sure. I am not positive. Crystal's Crime Time knows all that information. I have never had an interest in her children, and that's one thing now I'm not going to get involved in because I am very protective of my children, and I'm not going to do that to her children or anybody's children. For one, I'm not sure of his age. I have heard everything from 17 to 19. So I'm not sure that he is even an actual adult. And I'll tell y'all something, if he is just 18, the state of Tennessee does not recognize him as an adult until 19. Well, Catherine, go back to what I was telling y'all about every one of them coming from, as far as Don Wells, every one of them coming from McKinley or Waco, Texas. And, just about all of them was part of that come and take it movement. Robin has more than 3 aliases. Robin has aliases that I could stretch across this room. At one time, and this is no joke, when I first ran and started looking into Robin, I could stand up in this chair and hold up a piece of paper and it would just fall and hit the floor. There was so much on her and her husband. And I'll tell y'all something I found last night. Somebody needs to, as far as the bloodlines from that little Trent girl that come up missing, that little Carly Trent, she has got bloodlines to both sides of that family. I found Michelle needs to do like Michelle Walks is good with the genealogy, and she needs to do the genealogy on that little girl's family because she's going to see that it runs bloodlines right into this Summer Wells thing too. I don't know if it would have anything to do with anything or not, but you would run into some of the same players because I run into a name last night that kind of made me go, hmm. I bet I sound real funny on 2X, huh, Lucas? I still haven't heard the whole story on that little journey girl. He keeps bringing it up, but I still haven't. Nobody's ever said exactly what happened to her. And does anybody know? Oh, yeah, they're all in the dark web. Well, I understand that, Lupus, but there's things like this that could really help law enforcement to connect the dots. that they may be missing out on. Journey, and he keeps alluding to the child that was taken to Utah and something happening with the little girl. You have to download an Onion browser app or go to your Google browser and type in for a Tor browser, Tor. I don't have Facebook, so does anybody know what happened to the little girl? Hey Brock, how are you? And as far as that video last night, um, Josie looks like he is the biggest and the stockiest of those kids. And to me, he looks like he would be bigger than a size 14. And that's just my opinion. And that's from raising two boys. I remember, about what size my daughter was when she even wore a size, a child size 14. And what size my son was when he wore a size 14. And Josie looks like he's a heck of a lot bigger than a size 14. She size 11 would probably be about right for summer. But I could be wrong. But he just, to me, looks like he's bigger than a size 14. When you pull the maps up on Ben Hill. 120 shows up where one of those buildings is at. 110 shows up where the house is at. So I'm wondering if they didn't find the bag over in one of that far building, in a separate building. No, Brock. Benny gave a list of items that the investigators supposedly took from the Wells house last night, and they supposedly found a packed bag of belongings, and it was like a size 14 boot cut pair of pants, a medium short Adidas shoes, one Jack and Cat shoe, some picnic items, but the pants was size 14 and the shirt was a size medium. Exactly. The Wells are known liars. The only thing I can figure is that he took a copy of that out of the house, or he had a file. I have seen the 120 show up on different spots depending on whether the map was updated or not, and depending on what year it was updated. Um, so you're right. In certain spots, it shows up in the driveway. On certain spots, it shows up further back on the back side of the driveway. It's like that lower property. If the maps are not updated, it still shows the camper with the rebel flag down there. Yeah, it's like off to the back. So it just depends on how updated the map is and if it's updated to 2022. Because there was a lot of confusion even about that lower property down there and if that camper was still there and blah, 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 blah. I don't know, but I can't. He could have at least. When did she give it to me? That would be my question. Was that gave recently before they were fighting or after they were fighting? That older place back there is where they're talking about is the one that has the base or the root cellar in it. It's not a basement, it's a root cellar. And the back part boots up against the mountain. It doesn't even have a back in it. And that's the way a lot of root cellars were. And the idea behind that is because the way that red clay is in the mountain, it would keep everything cool. And people stored stuff and food and stuff in those root cellars. Hey Pisces, how are you? These headphones, these cheap headphones are giving me a fit. They keep falling out of my ears. But tomorrow's a new day, right? Because the store will be open that sells new ones. I would have at least blocked off the all the numbers to their computers and stuff like that. But that's just me. But I don't know what anybody could do with all those serial numbers anyway. But I don't know that I would have put those out to the public. You know, I'm to the point to where it doesn't matter to me how she's found, just so long as she's found. I prefer that she be all in one piece and safe and sound, but I'm just ready for this to be over with. And it's very rare that it's still cold like this in April, in the middle of April. And that old saying just keeps going through my head, like the once in a blue moon saying. It's sometimes it snows in April, and it keeps going through my head about that grand jury. Sometimes it snows in April. Well, maybe we'll get lucky and they'll do something right. Sometimes it snows in April. So I'm holding out hope till next week. Thank you, Wild Fox. I really, really appreciate that because I really believe that if they locked the other two up in a box, that they might start getting some answers. When the other two starts detoxing off of whatever they're on, they're going to start getting jittery and they're going to be wanting out of there at any type of cost. And they're going to be willing to cut just about any kind of deal. So lock their arses in a box for a while and just see what happens. And hey, we've tried everything else, so it's worth rolling the dice, right? It's worth a try. I don't think anybody is coaching Benny. I think Benny is scared that he is going to catch charges if he didn't ditch and do something different real quick. Something scared him. I don't know what it was, but something startled him. Or that's kind of the way it struck me, that it was a split decision, quick decision. No, Summer didn't deserve any of this, and Summer deserves for people to be looking for her. If that was my child, there would not be a tree left on that hill. You hear me? I would have done took every tree off of that hill, and that hill would be bare because I would have done ripped every tree up out there looking for my kid. There would be nothing left. And it's like I was telling my daughter last night. I don't think that either one of those parents has done as much as write her name on a rolling paper and handed it out. I know twice I drove from North Alabama to East Tennessee, all the way back across to Memphis, cut back down from the corner of Memphis back into Northwest Alabama and across to Northeast Alabama, hanging flyers twice. And like I said, her own parents have not even wrote her name on the rolling paper as and handed it out. Exactly, Catherine. Exactly. And I think only about 4 out of the 11 acres was ever actually able to be searched. So there's still right at 7 acres of that property that has never been touched. And she won't let anybody up there to search the other 7 acres. Well, they've been saying from the beginning that those kids walked around with liquor in their sippy cups. So would it really surprise you that they was giving them pieces of pain pills and giving them weed, letting them smoke weed too? I mean, really, would it shock you? Well, the terrain was so rough that they could not really search the property. It was just so bad, was what we were told. Well, I've not lost one to trafficking, but I've lost one to drugs. And that's just as horrific. Right, and I don't care what they tried to say about, well, the addresses just got changed and blah, blah, blah. No, that's two separate addresses there, and I believe that's why on that non-disclosure agreement, it said that nobody could turn their GPSs on up there. They didn't want anybody's phones on up there. They didn't want anybody running any kind of map locators or any of that stuff up there on that property. Oh, those people live like barbarians. I about fell out of my chair when Penny said something about one of the neighbors had said that it was common for them to hit each other with shovels up there. And I thought, well, now I know why the kid's head was shaved. They shaved her head at one time to treat a head wound. They shaved her head to stop her, to stop her head from bleeding at one time or another. I would bet money. I would bet money that's why her head was shaved. No, that's not the 120. Not in that building. The 120 is up on the hill too. They're both up on the hill. Penny didn't say what neighbor it come from. I think it was the kids that used to go up there and play with Josie and them. You remember the mother that spoke out a couple of times but wouldn't tell her name and stuff? I don't think that was Jody Sue that told that. I think that was the mother that had the kids that went up there a couple of times and she wouldn't let her kids go back. That was talking about they hit each other with hammers and um, shovels. Right. That one on the lower property is considered Beach Creek. Well, if you think about it, that would be very good reasoning for her head to be shaved, as if they had to shave it to actually get a bandage on it at one time. And who would tell that? Oh, I had to shave my kid's head because one of the other kids hit her in the head with a shovel and we had to stop the bleeding. Or, oh, her brother hit her in the head with a hammer and we had to stop the bleeding. Who would tell that? Nobody would tell that. Did you install the browser, Sapphire? Did you go to the Play Store and install like an Onion browser? Well, children act accordingly as to how they're raised. You look at some of the pictures, like, well, let, let's don't even worry about pictures, okay? Let's just think back at some of the lives that we witnessed Don and Candace in the last 10 months. And him just walking by and punching her in the face. Y'all remember that time that she was just laid out in the chair? Now, whether she was high or whether she was drunk or whether she was asleep, well, we don't know for sure, but it doesn't matter. The point I'm getting at is she was laid out. She was done. And he just walked by and he just punched her. I'm just bam, just let her have it because he could. This that behavior didn't just start after Summer got gone. That's behavior that has been escalating for many, many, many years that those kids have witnessed. And I'm sure that they mimic everything that they see. No, it does not excuse it. And then they see her jump on him the same way and jump on top of his head and beat on his head a while. To them, that's a normal way to act out anger and aggression. That is a normal emotional response. And that's what they taught those children. I told my daughter yesterday, I said, I have not seen one picture, not one, where that child did not have a bruise on her. Not one. I thought that there was one that I might have seen to where she didn't have a bruise on her. And that was the one during the hayride that looked so cute, where she had on her little overalls and all that. But if you look real close, she's got a bruise around her mouth. And it looked, it's crazy. Well, I mean, I can't believe as many people that was around her in that church that the bruises was not addressed. If nothing else was ever addressed and nothing else was ever said anything about, why not just the bruising? Why was all those bruises okay with everybody in that church? And guys, we've only seen just a handful of people in that church. There is some very prominent people in that church. There is piles of doctors within that church, and those kids went without medical care. I don't understand it. There is, I know at least 8 physicians, several physicians assistants, there's nurses, there's all sorts of people in the medical community in that church community, and the bruises were okay, and those kids went without medical care. And as a medical professional myself, I don't understand it. I don't get it. I agree with you, Darlene, that something ain't right with the whole. It sometimes, and I've said it 100 times, it looks like that we're seeing two different children. Sometimes it looks like she's even got two different color hair. My theory with the boxes and the milk was so that security cameras could not see and catch a full view into that truck that day. It was to block anything from seeing into the back of that truck that day. Strange. And I've asked myself if there was a chance that she was sold, not trafficked, sold. And the investigators know that she was sold to a well-off family. Would they leave her there, or would they bring her back to the CPS nightmare and to the hellhole that she come from? And could that be part of the problem? Are they stuck in a what would Jesus do situation? And was a company like Predator Hunter Nation hired to potentially take her to wherever it was that she went to? Just curious, just asking questions there. Because we have a missing roll of film from the week that Summer come up missing. We've got film from before and we've got film from after. But that one particular week is just, or could they have been using her as bait during one of these filmings and an accident happened and a big cover up is going on that involves a whole bunch of people? Just asking questions because a roll of film is missing and people are being threatened. that's asking questions. Yeah, they have to report her missing because CPS was due out there. Seems like that whole town harbors pedos because during a town meeting that I was watching, they had like 1,500 religious people move into that town in the past 2 years that come into that town because of the religious freedoms that Hawkins County offered that no other towns offered. It is a strange place. Oh, and y'all do know that when Hawkins County supposedly went broke searching for Summer, that they filed for COVID money. Let me word this correctly. That they really shouldn't have got by using Summer. They filed a bunch of fake stuff to replace the money with. I don't think 6/15 is the correct date either. Oh, I know all about the abduction drills, and do you know who wrote those abduction drills? Tim Mullen wrote the drills. I'm very much aware of those missing and abduction drills. Hey, Patty. Hey, dude. How you doing tonight, Doolittle? I caught the very end of your live tonight. I had worked part of a shift tonight, and I didn't make it home in time to get your whole live, but I caught the end of it. No, but I will go get a P.O. box. I've been meaning to do that. Right now, all I've got is the Cash App and the PayPal and the, oh, what do you call them? The Super Chats. Hunter is in foster care. I've seen all of Tim's stuff where, you know, he and and he says profit. I can't count how many times that he uses the word profit when he supposedly dreams too. And then where he talks about Summer's just gonna run to Uncle Tim. He's a Fruit Loop boy. I know, Kathy. That's what I said earlier. Sometimes it snows in April, every once in a blue moon. And let's just hope that that grand jury indicts every one of them, even the ones that's been running interference this whole time. Tim, Jody Sue, all of them, the whole bunch. Because you know it's illegal to obstruct justice. That's no secret, Angel. Even Andrew Hiltz and Allie both has come out and said that that's where H is at. That's why I went ahead and just said it. It's because his own mom and dad has said that. So I'm not sure. April the 11th. I don't know what time they're meeting. It may take them several days. You know, it depends on how many people that they've got willing to testify. And then those people that do testify is under a strict oath that they're not able to say anything about their testimony. And isn't Kathy Prayer Garden the one that Candace is living with? Isn't Prayer Garden's name Kathy? Isn't that the same Kathy? Boy, look, Sherry moves as much as Jacqueline West. She looks like a boxer up there, back and forth, rocking. She's so messed up on stuff. But yeah, that's Prayer Garden she's living with up there. That's the same one that Don was sleeping with. Because y'all notice Prayer Garden has not been on either. She has disappeared. Okay, well, I may be wrong about that, but I assumed when he said Kathy that it was the same person. No, Candace is at her house. Don told Candace to get the hell out of his house. When Don found out what all was going on and her talking to this one and that one, he told her to get out of his house. No, Prayer Garden is not at Candace's. And evidently, I'm confused about which Kathy it is. Queenie just told me that it's not the same Kathy, that it is not Prayer Garden. It's a different Kathy. Candace is staying with a woman named Kathy. Candace has left the Wells property. Don put her out. Don has recently told her to get her ass off his property when he found out about Ernie and BK and everybody else and how she was acting on YouTube. And she hasn't been there for about 3.5 weeks. Well, she deserved it. She definitely deserved to be put out. Well, I know Cher stays in contact with Dawn for sure. She puts up like a little Blues Clues mailbox and kind of taunts Candace with it every time she starts to send on a message. Hey, Miss Libby, how are you? We're just over here laughing and cutting up. Just join us. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, I think that's the general consensus there that right, right. I bet Candace regrets treating a lot of people the way that she has. And I don't, Patty, I don't doubt that she has not told Don every single thing. Everything. I think I was at work and I missed that live, Sue. The one that had Shannon in it. The last live that I caught of BK's was the one that had Miss Dutchy in it. And that was the one about the items. And that was a pretty good, that was a really good live. And I don't know if Grandis is still on the hill or not. I've not heard anybody say if Grandis left the hill with Candace or not. I heard that, Patty. I heard that. I don't know who Squall Tit is. I'm not even familiar with her channel, and I'm not into the dachshund thing. She can't sell his house. That would have to be. Thank you, darling, for being here. I hope you rest well. Almost definitely relationship goals, right? How not to raise your kids. I've said from the beginning, I said, I don't know what they're guilty of, but they're guilty of something. because innocent people just do not act like that. Good night, sweetie. And I can't for the life of me, I don't know why Granddad wouldn't be allowed to have my kids or allowed to talk to them because what could be worse than what they already deal with? What could possibly be worse? Miss Libby, if you're still in here, did you ever find an answer to the size 14 jeans? We were talking about that earlier, and he just looks to me for a size 14. I don't know. The whole situation just seems hopeless because Candace is, could you imagine how those kids feel? Their own mom just acts like just doesn't care to try to get them back. One of my original theories was that he was taken over to the 125 property and then moved once the searchers and the police were moved out of there. Because the people that lived at the 125 property refused to let that property be searched by authorities. In the very beginning, it was days later that they agreed to let it be searched. Is that better? Mm-hmm. Is that better? Better? His sheet. Once the store opens tomorrow, I promise. Now that I've got StreamYard, I will go buy a good pair. first time I have been successful at even connecting StreamYards. So I will buy a good pair that will even stay in my ears. I hate these things that could keep popping out. Okay, is that better? I'll do some more. Well, I just hope that they don't have her stuck in a hole in the ground somewhere in a basement, like Don said in that interview, in a dungeon somewhere, hid away from everybody, just because CPS was coming, and she's still in that messed up situation. You know, that's kind of my worst fear is that they still have some sort of hold on her. I hope wherever she's at, that she's free of the abuse that she was in, regardless of what the outcome may have been. Well,